Let's turn to COVID now, where numbers are climbing fast here in Indiana. Then the state reported more than 1,700 new cases. That's the highest number of cases we've seen since mid-April. And right now, just over 44% of Indiana's population is fully vaccinated. Now this, as Moderna says, its COVID-19 vaccine remains highly effective for at least 6 months. Its phase 3 study showed a 93% efficacy 6 months after the second dose. But they say a booster will likely be necessary prior to the winter season because it affects neutralizing antibody levels will continue to wane. And we are following big COVID news out of IPS, where dozens of students are in quarantine after a case of the virus in the school. Now, we know a staff member at Wallace Elementary tested positive for COVID. Now, 61 fourth graders are at home for the next 2 weeks. Kevin Blue and his wife have 3 kids who go to the school, but so far they are not affected. IPS students are required to wear masks to school, and that's something the Blues say their kids are used to by now.
It's like second nature to them, yeah. You know, they put on their shirt, they put on their mask too, you know, because it's just one of those things.
Now, those fourth graders will now stay home in quarantine for the next couple of weeks and will do all of their classes online. And more area schools return to class today. Bishop Chatterd High School, Jesuit High School, Center Grove, and Lebanon are all back this morning. You can find a full list of back-to-school dates on WTHR.com and on our news app. Well, the mayor of West Lafayette is making headlines for comments about unvaccinated Hoosiers. This happened yesterday during a briefing on COVID-19. Take a listen to this.
I lost my temper at a council meeting here recently, and I referenced them as unvaccinated. And unfortunately, that sometimes is accurate. That's true.
Now, there are more than 26,000 unvaccinated people living in West Lafayette. Just this week, we learned hospitals in the county are struggling with capacity as COVID cases climb. And the CDC reports drug overdose deaths increased in Indiana during the pandemic. And that's why right now the State Commission to Combat Drug Abuse is meeting to discuss solutions. Doug Hunsinger, the state's executive director for drug prevention, treatment and enforcement, says COVID had a big impact on the spike in drug overdose cases. In 2018, he says the number of overdose death numbers were declining at 3 times that of the national average. And recently, the CDC noted Indiana had increased last year by 33% in overdose deaths. And there was a 67% increase in naloxone doses administered by emergency medical workers. And overdose visits to emergency rooms are up 50%.
One of the biggest things that we did during COVID was our recovery hubs. These are 18 organizations covering the entire state. And last year, they served 10,000 people. And what they really do is help people maintain recovery.
Now, Hunsinger says the commission will discuss restarting programs that were paused during the pandemic and more intervention methods.